Good evening, and thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Dr. James Johnston. I'm the Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs. I have with me this evening to address academic-related questions that you might have Dr. Kristen Garrison. She's my Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs. Dr. Pam Morgan, our Director of Academic Outreach and Distance Education. Dr. Margaret Brown Marsden, the Dean of the McCoy College of Science, Mathematics, and Engineering. And Dr. Bradley Wilson, Associate Professor of Mass Comm and Parliamentarian of our Faculty Senate.
I want to begin by, again, saying thank you, and to reiterate some of the, I think some of the things that inspire me. We are going through, of course, this pandemic. We're enduring sheltering in place and social distancing and virtual conferencing and virtual everything, it seems like. And one of the things that inspires me to continue the work that I do, and this I think a lot of the faculty and staff do, is that you're still here. The students are still here. In the midst of all this, you continue to make progress on your degree, and I think that's extraordinary. Against all of these other things, you're choosing to continue to pursue that degree, to pursue your dreams. So for that, I applaud you. We received a few questions in advance of the broadcast tonight, and I want to begin by addressing a couple of those, and then we'll just stop and open up to your questions. First, there were a couple of questions about why we chose not to go to a pass-fail grading system. I'll begin by saying each institution really has to make decisions about its student body and what's in the best interest of that student body. We have a large number of our majors that are in programs that lead to professional licensure and certification. We've not had concrete answers from some on whether or not a pass-fail would be acceptable to sit for those certifying exams. Some we know that it would not be acceptable, and again, just a number of unanswered questions there. Secondly, these are program or departmentally accredited programs. We did not have clear guidance from some of those of whether or not that would satisfy accreditation requirements. There were a number of questions about transfer, whether these courses would transfer to graduate programs or to allow those individuals to be competitive for those programs. We had problems or questions with what that pass or fail would mean in terms of progression within our own coursework, and that of if you may transfer. So what that means is for some institutions that chose a pass-fail, the C was the cut. For some, the D was the cut, so a D and higher was passing. That's going to cause some issues down the road, and I'll come back to that in a moment. But part of that grade is to ensure that you've met a minimum level of competence to progress to the next level of that particular course. So the issues that surround that would be problematic. And then finally, I would say that the idea that this may help or preserve a GPA, it really depended on a number of factors. Primarily, a pass doesn't change or improve your GPA, while a fail will negatively impact your GPA. So for some students, it may find themselves at or near a probation or suspension, and may not necessarily help you and could put you into a probationary category. And finally, some of the competitive admission programs that we have here, that pass not helping your GPA may actually make you less competitive to get into one of those programs. So again, I think for all of these reasons, we had to make a decision on what was in the best interest of our student body, and we felt staying with our current grading scheme was the best answer. And I'll end by that topic by saying I was in a meeting yesterday with all of the other provosts and associate provosts in the state, and there were a lot of questions about how and for how long we would deal with this pass-fail in terms of transfer and what we did with that to prepare and support students that may bring a pass-fail grade. So I think Related to that, our decision to move the last day to drop to May 1st allows basically all of the coursework to be done, and students with their advisors can make the best decision on that course. So I'll stop with that for that one. The other broad one that I wanted to open with is questions about the fall and what the fall may look like for MSU. I'll say that currently we're dealing with the shelter in place, and we're honoring the restrictions that are in place. Our planning and all of our work right now is to be in person, to be face-to-face in the fall. Our incident management team is working on safety measures and protocols and processes that will allow us to do that in a safe and healthy way. But right now, our hope and all our planning is that we will be face-to-face in the fall. We'll spend a bit of the summer making preparations for that and doing what we can to be ready for whatever may come in the fall, or if this may change in the fall, to be better prepared for what we may need to do next. So I'll stop with those and look at questions. When we return face-to-face courses, will faculty implement more technology? So we have a number of things in that, but I'll let if Dr. Brown Marsden will.
Sure. I think it's a really good question about returning to more technology. I think that there are two reasons why your faculty member might not be using a lot of technology right now. One of those reasons might be the fact that they are less familiar with the technology. They weren't always aware of what was available, and what I find really heartening is I keep hearing from faculty they didn't realize that D2L did this or that, they didn't realize this resource was out there. So that's one reason might be the faculty member didn't quite have all of the tools available at the time. They tried to move online, and they were moving quickly to try to get you to keep it from having a gap in your classes. But the second reason is that I had advised faculty not to go too quickly to some forms of technology because of students. Because we didn't know what students had available to them at home, wherever that home might be. And if we assumed that they had access to a wide range of technology, that might eliminate a lot more students. So at this point, we are aiming kind of toward a middle for some technology use in the classroom, not too much that we might overstep faculty ability or your own ability to have access to things at home. I do anticipate, though, as both of those things grow, we'll have a greater chance to use technology in the future.
Dr. Moore, I think you talked about using some of the lower level technology first, and do you want to add something to that of what we're working on?
Yes, to build on what Dr. Marsden mentioned, the end user is someone that we try to keep in mind and that faculty have tried to keep in mind. And some of the lower level technology options have been discussion boards and blogs, journals within D2L. And then on the high end on technology, which requires a lot of bandwidth, are the virtual classrooms, the webinar types of technology, the Zoom, the Skype, the WebEx, and D2L. And so we've seen faculty, some of them started off jumping to the more advanced because it seemed like it would be the quickest answer for everyone, and now have slowly backed away from that. They're finding that using the tools that create more engagement are actually more satisfying for the students and the faculty. And to build on the question where you ask if we'll use more technology, in working with the faculty through this, I have found that many of them have been very pleased with tools like discussion because it gives everyone in the classroom a voice. Whereas when you're in a large lecture hall, you might be hesitant to speak up.
If I can just add one point.
Yes,
to that. I think we've got 6,000 something students on this campus with 6,000 pieces of experience. We've got 300 and something faculty on this campus with just a wide array of experiences, and those experiences come into play. Some of them are more comfortable with this, and some are more comfortable with that, and that's played out through all of this.
Yeah, I think so. I think some of those that we find is two critical elements. The subject that is being taught, some of those are more conducive to online and certain types of technology than others. I think one of the other encouraging things I think Dr. Brown Marsden alluded to is we're finding that as faculty discover what's available, they're also discovering what's possible with some of the technology. And I know when I first started teaching online to where we are today, some of the things we thought just a few years ago would be impossible are now very good online. And the other thing I would say about that, and I mentioned this in the video that I did with Dr. Lamb, I think it was a week or so ago, the days start to run together now, is about communication. The one critical element is, particularly in teaching remotely, is communication between students and faculty, and faculty to students. That sometimes becomes a challenge when all of the nonverbal elements of communication are missing. So keep that in mind as you go through your classes. Another question about what steps have been taken to prepare for the possibility of going online in the fall. I'll begin that point by saying beginning with what we're doing now. Of course, the one thing this virus has not afforded us is the luxury of time to think and to plan and to prepare. Not that what we have done now or are doing now is absolutely perfect, but I think we have enough of a handle that allows us to look a little further ahead. What I will begin discussing with the deans and with faculty senate and faculty next week is the preparations and the training and the things that we need to do to prepare for the fall. We want to build in the flexibility. We want to be ready should we have to go remotely again or shelter in place. But as importantly, what we do now to prepare to come back face to face and to do that in a safe and responsible way. So,
I'll just take that and go back to the previous question as well. This has allowed me to build up a repertoire of things that I can pull out now that I didn't have before. So maybe I'll use them, maybe I won't. But this is giving us the flexibility that we're more ready for the fall because of this. But if we don't need it, we've got it.
yeah.
And I'd say from Dean's point of view that we've talked about the different things that faculty are doing, and what we can think about is that they started the spring semester face-to-face, they moved to online. If we can take that experience and then say, okay, what could we have done, let's say, if we had to teach the first part online, going back and picking up some things we might not have had online in the spring, and then also allowing them a little bit more time to learn some of the techniques and technologies that they need. And one of the things I'm doing for my college is reinvesting in faculty, helping to give them, look at the funds that we have to help them develop a new course, to expand an existing course, to try to make it better, to try to say that let's take what we know and then apply it, which is what all of us do as academics.
The big thing that we'll be able to do is plan for some training events. This happened very quickly. We were scrambling to find cameras and laptops, and it was pretty crazy. And so what we're looking to all through the summer, whether we do this in the fall or not, the faculty that are interested in continuing using some element of technology, is that we will have training events. And if we're not back together, we'll do training remotely. And we've been having a lot of discussions about that and how best to give faculty the opportunity to train either in very small groups or from their home to our office. So there will be a lot of training opportunities offered throughout the summer.
Just a quick point. We have all learned so much throughout this. The undergraduate research forum is now online. In 2 weeks, we got in contact with the company and got all the students involved in that to put their posters online, do video presentations. That's, just the stuff that the students have learned has been pretty incredible out of this.
Oh yeah. I have to browse through. The nice thing about having a virtual research forum is that you can see everything. It just takes time. But in those shelter in place and socially distanced, you may have a little bit of time, particularly when finals are through. But certainly take advantage of that. It's beautifully done. Very, very nice.
2 weeks, imagine what we can do when we have the time to really think it through.
To really think.
But Magali enjoyed it.
There's a question about will drop dates for summer classes be extended as well? Good question. We've not looked at that yet, but I've made a note of that, and we'll bring that back. A larger number of our course offerings in the summer are online. The nice thing about those is that they are designed as true online courses. So very well done, very different experience. So some of these that we may have to pivot because we're making these decisions rather quickly as the pandemic unfolds and creates new challenges for us. But I'll take that back. I think that's something we need to discuss with cabinet and with faculty and with the deans to see what we may need to do to help out with that. How will the cost of classes fees look if we decide to go online in the fall? I think that, again, we're looking at those and assessing what we have and what we charge and what we need to do. I think in broad terms and response, the balance of fees, if we see for our purely online students and the end cost for being a distance education student, and the fees and the end cost for those that are face-to-face are generally on par with each other. So I think it depends on what we have to do and the services we deliver. But it is something we're talking about and we'll certainly take into consideration based on what we have to do. Asking about opening of the wellness center and facilities. I can ask Dr. Lamb that offline, but as the city and the county revisit what businesses of that type can open and what safety measures have to be in place, we'll be able to make informed decisions about that. But I can check with Dr. Lamb offline about when we will open that.
There's a question on the sheet. I'll just tackle one
Sure.
here for a second. The question is, what if my professor refuses to talk to us online? And I will tell you, I have incredible amounts of dialogue with my students, but not all professors are that way, and every professor is just different. So what I've challenged my students to do is not to just take one email and not getting a response from that is the answer. Pick up the phone and call their office, leave a message. If that doesn't work, call somebody else in the department, call the department chair. There's so many other avenues, but please don't just stop in one email. And I don't use the D2L email system, but my students are all in that D2L email system. So I've had to learn, okay, I need to do that and my regular email system. So I think the students that are thinking about that need to go at it in multiple different ways.
And to build on that, there was a question, sorry, Brad, do you want to take that? There was a question that popped up that said a student hasn't heard back from their professor since spring break. Believe it or not, some faculty don't have internet at home, and not being on campus, they may not be responsive the way you would like, which is why it's so important to do what Dr. Wilson mentioned, and that's reach out to someone else in the department. I can tell you that the chairs and the deans have been incredibly responsive to students that are having communication issues of all kinds. So if you don't know the next person to reach out to, you can send a trouble ticket in to D2L if you want. You can email any of us directly, and we can at least get you the name of the chair in the department where you're having an issue.
And check out the online directory.
Yeah, we do have an online directory, that's true.
That's right.
And I will say that the process for individual problems with a course or within a class are the same as they've always been. So if you've reached out to your professor and you've not heard, that contact should go to the department chair, to the dean, and then ultimately that comes to me. But what I would say when in this time when sometimes communication can be difficult, if you can't find or get to a person, send those the staff that are monitoring this broadcast. They can, if you private message that our staff, I will make sure that message gets to the proper department chair or dean, and that we can address your concerns. I sometimes have to pause to think about all the hundreds and hundreds of students and faculty and staff that are working remotely, and there are communication problems. So we want to address those as quickly as we can and not just land on the side of most of it is going well. We want to take care of the things that are not going well also. So, how will social distancing affect the athletic department, the weight room, locker room, etc.? Some of those, again, that's what the incident management team will be working on and focusing on. Part of the protocols when we come back together. We're also monitoring guidance that comes from local, state, and federal agencies on what is appropriate and what is expected. Some of this, again, are pretty steep learning curves for how we do this. I think it's human nature to be at a certain distance and to respect maybe double that distance. It seems odd. I find myself struggling to carry on a conversation when I'm 6 feet from somebody because I'm used to being 2 or 3 feet away. So, but we will continue to work on those, and we want to have a firm recommendations that Cabinet will look at in 2 weeks, and then start to equip and find the resources to make sure we can do that and be ready when we are coming back together. The next one is our summer classes being offered at a discounted price. I know we're doing that for our core. We're looking at that for other online or our summer classes. So let me check on that and see if I can come back after a break and make sure. But that discounted price is currently being offered on all of our core courses.
While we're talking about training, I'm sorry, Brandon, there is also help for students. What we did as this first began is we created a student orientation course in D2L, and we enrolled all of the students that we could identify that had not previously been in D2L into that orientation course. Also, our help email is located everywhere. It's pretty simple to remember, D2L help. And you can ask us anything you want, whether it's within our purview to handle or not. We can at least get you to the right person. By and large, the issues for students have centered around testing. Lockdown browser has given some folks some headaches. So we continue to work through that, but the students have been so resilient and in some cases are much more adept to this sort of change than the rest of us are. So you're doing very, very well. But there is help for you if you need it, so just reach out.
Next question is about online resources and tutoring. So Dr. Garrison.
Yes, absolutely. Speaking of help, so the Office of Tutoring and Academic Support, that staff basically transferred all of their resources online. So there's full content tutoring for students. You can get tutoring in math, biology, chemistry, psychology, history, geology. It's a pretty lengthy list. And so students who are looking for a peer tutor to help get them through some content, you go to TASC's website, which is available directly through the MSU website, and follow the link to online tutoring or distance education tutoring, and you'll find a link to something called Tutor Match. And that is how you will be able to schedule an appointment with any of our tutors. You reach out to that tutor and designate a time that's convenient for you. And if that tutor cannot make that time, then you'll have a conversation online until you figure out a time that's mutually convenient. So I know another one of the questions was about having tutoring available in the evenings. There is tutoring available in the evenings that just needs to be worked out one-on-one with our online tutors. There's also writing tutoring support online, also available through that distance education link. So, or distance education tutoring link. So all of our tutoring resources are fully available, and the tutors are ready to work with you. So reach out to them.
And if you don't remember what Dr. Garrison said on how to find tutoring, just go into D2L, which you can find through the portal. It'll be over on the left-hand menu. And then when you get into D2L, there is a tutoring button on the right. So you can find help either way.
That's another area, I would say, the past Austins have done a fantastic job of transitioning all of the resources and efforts to a remote learning and online environment. So great job with those, with the tutors that have stepped in. I think some of this tutoring virtually was a little bit out of their comfort zone, but I think we've all are slowly getting past that. So I think they've done a great job adjusting to that. So next question is, how is MSU going to help students in the process for green cards? Another one I have to ask our International Services Office. I'll see if I can get an answer for that for you on a break offline from Dr. Lamb's area.
So we've got another one on our standby list here.
Yep.
Why are professors increasing the workload? I'll tell you, again, this so varies by professor. Some professors are increasing the workload, or at least it may seem that way to the students. Some professors feel like the workload is increased on their behalf, but they're giving less work to the students. So I think this is one of those that really just runs the gamut, and it's a conversation that the students and the faculty need to have. If they feel like they're being overworked, that's a conversation that the students need to have with the faculty. I know, like one of my classes, I forgot to give an assignment this week. It just eluded me. I checked off all my little things. And so we're all in the same boat. We're all working in a new environment with new software and new situations. And I just think so much depends on the faculty and the student relationship.
I've also used the phrase, maybe think about in your classes when the syllabus, I encouraged all faculty to do sort of a syllabus 2.0 to try to say, okay, let's restart the semester, let's look at what your syllabus 2.0, what changes would be made in terms of how, I know the question up on the screen is how do we look at attendance, for example. Those who take attendance every day, how are they going to try to do that if that was a component of grades, for example? But I want to sort of ask, and I would encourage both faculty and students to ask maybe, are we looking at more work or different work? Did something get subtracted perhaps in the semester that something else was added to replace that? That might be one thing, is that there was a swap for some things. In other cases, there is perhaps a change. We have a greater difficulty looking at what students are doing directly sort of themselves, and it's convincing faculty that students are being honest and trying to do their work, but their judge of that might be to ask you to do a writing assignment or to do something that puts a little bit more of a signature on what you do than, let's say, maybe a multiple choice test. To be able to say that this is this person and be able to look at that. I know for some math faculty, they did do a fill-in test where they asked students to submit images of their written work just to verify certain questions. And so just, I guess, and I would ask faculty too, and I will do that when I have the opportunity to remind them, are we looking at more work or different work? And sometimes we assume that our students understand what we're doing, and we really do have to explain our teaching style. And so sometimes it's like, let's take a step back and say, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, why I give a test versus a quiz, why I give a quiz versus a homework. And then explain that. And any faculty member, I'd encourage them, or if you haven't had somebody explain that to you, then ask that question.
And some parts of some courses translate really well, and some parts don't. My writing translated really well, but my reporting didn't. Right? So if you were really good at the writing part, you probably think, oh, everything's easy. But if you're really good at the reporting part, all of a sudden you've got a lot more work done on you from your perspective. So I agree that that's good.
There was I'll come back to the previous question about virtual attendance, asking about finals that kind of follows the same, in a similar vein as what we've been talking about. So the schedule for finals, we enter into the same, the review week and finals week schedule. So as we've adhered to, as closely as we can, the current classroom or class schedule, we will continue to do that. What the final or final project, final exam looks like is, again, at the discretion of the individual faculty member, but the process and the timing for review week and finals week will continue as any other part of the semester. It was kind of interesting, the virtual attendance being incorporated into a standard. If I'm interpreting this to mean what I'm about to say, it's kind of interesting. If not, you please re-ask the question. But one of the things we've talked about in a way to create or maintain some social distancing and some safety in the fall is a way to have a camera within the classroom, let the faculty and a more limited number of students be physically in the class, and then stream that through D2L or another platform, and then maybe alternate the students that they'll be virtually on this day and then in person on this day. So it's interesting what we can do with some of these, or what we've discovered we can do. So if that's the question, the nature of the question, that's actually one of the things we'll kind of talk about and explore as a way to maintain some safe social distancing in the fall.
I think part of that question was, for the classes that require attendance as part of the grade, how are we handling that?
Oh, doing it virtual.
And right now, how are we handling it virtually?
Yeah.
And I think the answer is the same. It just depends on the faculty.
Yeah, how we do that.
But you can check attendance in D2L. You can see, this is probably good information, you can see when you've logged in, how long you logged in, how many days it's been since you logged in, and then what you were working on. So we
How long
often,
you spent working on it?
yeah, we often have to go in and look at last day of attendance for financial aid reasons. So it can be tracked in D2L.
Okay, we'll take a 1-minute break, and we'll be back to you to answer more of your questions. Okay. All right, we'll go back to some of the questions. And next I'll head over to Dr. Brown Marsden.
Sure. The question is, can we limit the number of programs outside of D2L that instructors can use to assign work? I think that's an important question, and I think it's really born from probably frustration at going to multiple places to get information, maybe from multiple professors. Let me start by saying that, in the positions that we are, let's say as deans or chairs or provosts, that we try really hard, as much as possible, to not interfere with how faculty teach the classes. I think we very much try to respect that as long as they're meeting the outcomes of a class that are expected for the discipline, for the progression that class goes on to another, and as long as they're meeting the policies that they have to meet for according to the university, I try really hard not to interfere and to dictate what faculty use. except for now everybody teaches online, right? That was one huge moment where we sort of stepped in and said, you can do anything you would like to do, but you have to teach it online. I think the faculty were really creative in terms of reaching out to options. Some of the reasons they went to other programs were probably discipline specific. I can say that for some faculty in the science and math engineering area that there are some really specific things for, let's say, lab instruction or for giving students some math work in math that they had to go off of D2L for. And so I think that that's one reason is that the discipline sort of dictated what had to be used. And then the second is I think they wanted to try to be creative in terms of how they enter that. I think we're going to see a little bit of a pendulum swing as time goes on. They may have had ambitions to do a lot of different things, and when you see that coalesce into a few really effective ones, just like all of us do every single semester, we review how we did. We think about our semester, how our instruction went, and they're going to go back and I think recalibrate. Perhaps for the future, some they may retain, some they may not, some they may have already done that.
The good news is we only have one LMS system, and that's D2L. But then you have a lot of faculty that use publisher content, which may take you out of D2L, and then you'll be in my IT lab or something in Pearson. But today I was meeting with my students on Skype. Something went wrong, and so we just switched to Zoom. So it's nice that we have a number of tools available. We're going to roll out Teams very soon, which is an even easier product to use, and it may be one that faculty look at more than Virtual Classroom and D2L is running a Teams event, which is just a web conferencing tool that's simplified. So sometimes it's good to have a number of tools at your disposal, because I was able to continue my meeting with them today, but I had to leave and use another platform.
And the fact is, the university may have learned some things out of this as well. Maybe the university decides to provide some of these tools, whereas right now, some of the faculty are left on their own to get them. I hate Teams, but I love Zoom.
Yeah.
So it is nice to have variety.
I was just pretty proud of myself that I can use 4 different video conferencing things.
But can you do it at the same time?
Our next question is, will class sizes be limited in the fall or decreased number of social events like homecoming? So as I know we're all starved for human contact, I think, at this point, but as we've seen over the last few weeks, the guidance that we received from the CDC, for example, about social distancing and precautions continues to evolve as we learn more about COVID-19 and its infection and rates of spread. So it's one of the things, again, that we will look at and plan for. If the guidance in the fall says we should have groups no more than 15 or 20 or 30, we will work to accommodate those. For larger gatherings, again, depending on the guidance, we have to be, once again, creative in how we still continue some of those events and still be safe and responsible for each other's health and well-being. So that's just one we're going to have to see and plan for and work towards as we get closer to fall.
I'll take this. The question is issues with D2L test. Sometimes it kicks us out, also kicks us out for no reason during lectures. Well, you're not going to like this answer, but the truth is it's probably not D2L at your carrier. And that is based on load right now. Everybody is online, literally, for entertainment, for work, for school.
The NFL draft.
The NFL draft. Everybody's online, but I do understand what you're saying, and I'll tell you, in the test, the tool that's given us trouble is Lockdown Browser. And I think that's where you'll probably see faculty in the future try to be more creative, as Dr. Marsden mentioned. So instead of giving the same 50-question multiple choice test that they've always done, they may do something that requires a written response, or, I don't know, give an assignment instead of. But D2L is not kicking you out, it's your browser, or it's your service. But Respondus, it has been a pain this semester.
And can I suggest to everyone who has that happen in practice, document as much as possible.
Contact our office.
Yeah, write down when it was, what happened exactly, take a picture of your screen, whatever it takes to try to document what you have, because really that's how we put together the puzzle and figure out what happened. So as much information as you can provide your professor, the better that they can understand what might have been happening, and we can or our defense office can figure out what's going on.
And you can re-enter that test. As long as you still have time in your test, if you get kicked out, you can go right back in and hopefully pick up where you left off. If you don't have time to finish it, that's where you want to contact our office, because then we can verify your story and back you up with the instructor. And I have never, ever encountered an instructor that did not work with a student who had technical problems when it could be verified through our office. So please, the first thing you need to do is what Dr. Marsden said. Take a picture of your screen so you can show what the error message says, and then hit that D2L need help button and say, I got kicked out, I'm going back in, and then we can help support you when you need to appeal.
Don't wait, do it right.
Don't wait, yes, do not wait,
Instructors
go
are
right back in.
much more likely to be lenient on that kind of stuff and do it
Yes.
in the right way.
Yes.
Asking a similar question about finals and the schedule. Again, we will continue to adhere to the normal spring schedule, so we will enter, I guess in about 2 weeks now, review week and then finals week. So we'll continue to follow the same schedule that was published. What the final exam or final project will look like, those are up to each individual faculty as to what that will be. Question about trying to contact financial aid. I think if you're having difficulty with that, if you will message our staff, let us get you to the right person in financial aid.
And I actually know that answer because Kathy's a friend.
You can tell us.
They are having to work remotely. A lot of them in the office, they have to leave because it was too compact. But they're trying to get everyone to email in for help, so then they can disperse that work among the staff in the office to get you the help you need. So don't get frustrated that you can't reach them through the telephone. Go to the financial aid page and then email, and then they can get back with you.
I have a question about will we still have commencement on August 1st? We are just now revisiting that decision and opportunities for versions of maybe virtual recognition of our graduates and how we may do that. So watch for announcements. As we work through these and find solutions or alternatives, we try to put those out. So hang on to that one, and we will get answers and decisions for you as soon as we can about that. That's another one that's really difficult for me. Part of the initiatives when I was appointed provost is really strengthening and building the traditions of MSU and all of the things, all of the experiences from the senior campus walks and what we do at commencement and working on our ring ceremony and the one-class ring. I've seen all the options and opportunities for that, and really going to miss having that opportunity, but we will do our very best to find some version of that. I'm sorry?
They can still kind of run the horse at any time.
Yes, you can participate in that, and you can touch the nose of that senior horse and celebrate that achievement. We will continue to do those, and actually, AJ that's sitting on the other side of these has asked to work with me about a virtual version of the senior campus walk, so we'll have to, in his non-existent spare time, we'll find a way to do that. So, we're going to take another short break, and we'll be back with more questions.
All right, we're good.
Just have a
Yeah, the nose will be discolored from all the alcohol.
Dr. Bradley, can you just speak a little bit?
Yes.
Okay. It's just for some reason it's not picking.
I can talk really loud.
It's picking up Dr. Brown Marsden's voice, but it's having trouble picking up your voice.
Low voice.
I guess so because I hear like the hiccup.
I think
That might be what it
what the
is.
people on Facebook are saying on financial aid is they already know they're just getting silenced.
Oh, the question I thought it said.
Then they came back after he said that. and said,
Yeah,
"Oh,
that's getting a lot of thumbs up, so I just sent all that to Fred.
Okay. Well, then never mind. I just knew that's how Kathy and them were running the office and emails personal. I don't know. But somebody is in there, okay, so I don't know.
All right, everyone ready?
Okay, you have a next question?
Sure. The question is sort of in my college, I guess. There are some other colleges who have labs, but the question is, will classes with labs be pulled from the summer schedule? One of the things I have to say is unfortunately, yes, and I'm sorry about that. And, you know, I apologize to faculty about some of the changes that have been made, because it really does challenge us sometimes, and I know it challenges your progression through classes. We've had to pull labs, we've done our best with the labs that can be adapted for online, but one of the concerns we have are things like chemistry, biology. These are labs where you learn techniques that future classes depend on. While we could probably teach you the content, we can't necessarily teach you pipetting with your own two hands. We can't necessarily teach you plating something for microorganismal isolation. And so I think that the faculty are so passionate about the stuff that they teach that when we've had a conversation I've had in the last 2 days with faculty who teach labs, and fundamentally we struggle with the idea of moving all of that online with any permanency. And so what they would like to do is to shift those classes for during the semester to have you actually put your hands on the tools that you might be using in future classes. We are going to have some online classes for labs. They're going to try to do, I'm teaching a class, a biology course. We're teaching a couple of physics classes online. There's some engineering online. We're doing our best with what can be adapted, but for some things that simply can't because it's progression, of course, we're not going to do that.
Next question is, if classes are online in the fall, would we automatically have online classes for the spring? So to say a couple of things about that. Our true online course offerings and degrees that we offer online, of course, those are going to be there every semester as always. But if you're more about the remote learning, should we have to transition, again, our plan, if you will, is to be face-to-face in the fall and to find a way, if at all possible, to do that. But we still have to be safe and we still have to be responsible and mitigate the spread of COVID-19. So if we have to do that, we want to work on some very creative ideas and ways during the summer to be flexible enough that if we have to move online for a short period of time, we can do that and move back to face-to-face. But certainly for any classes intended face-to-face, it would not be automatic that we just stay with that. So as soon as we are able to come back in person after whatever may happen, if there are temporary shelter-in-place orders and then relaxation of those, we want to be able to move with those and be face-to-face for as much as we can. So,
yeah, there's a question about, will MSU consider adding more courses to the online course list for summer? For example, math or computer science that have no labs. The good answer is yes. I've been talking to faculty today and yesterday about what can be adapted to online, and I'm using some of the funds that I have in an endowment to help to supply faculty some development time during the summer to move those classes to online in summer too. So, for example, trigonometry we'll have in summer too, which we've never had online before. There are a couple of more computer science classes that we online that we've not had before in the summer. And I think this is, there's also 2 chemistry courses for non-majors that are being developed for online, and those will be ready starting for the fall. But I think that some faculty, we talked about how they're really responding to this challenge. This is kind of revitalizing their interest in some of the potential for online teaching, and so some of them have really grabbed hold and are saying, what more can I do? And what I've said is, let's try to develop some more classes for online.
I think we've seen that response campus-wide. again, just discovering what is possible with the technology today and offering more classes online. So we have incentives in place to create and build more online classes, and we'll continue to do that to help our students. And we realize that a number of our students in normal times go home in the summer, and we want you to be able to take MSU home with you and continue progressing in your degree online with us in the summer. So we'll continue to try to provide those for you. There are several questions regarding book returns. Students can expect an email soon with instructions for return. So again, monitor your emails for that.
So one of our standby questions was, what can we do if we cannot access the internet? And I don't even know how to answer that question, except contact somebody at the university and they will help you. We'll find a way to make that happen.
And there's a whole, in the page for shifting online, there's a whole set of instructions, including some of the network providers that have offered to do reduced or even in some cases, 1 month free for getting people online. So if you've not had a chance to do that yet, and obviously you say that these resources for you online for looking at the answers, but there are some things on the university's website with the online transition that talk about some of the ISPs that will work with you. Including cell phone carriers. A lot of the cell phone carriers are extending data plans, and I just had a message from Verizon where they were giving me a hotspot for the month of May. Clearly, if we're teaching online, you will need internet. So whether that's borrowing internet, a free source, or going to some of the resources that Dr. Marsden mentioned, we have them on the distance ed page, and they're also on the IT page, and I believe AJ has them somewhere in student resources.
There's a question, is there a plan for international students who have to remain on campus this summer? And I did get this response from Dr. Lamb. I just read that to you. Any student currently in campus housing who faces similar circumstances of not being able to travel home, including those who do not have a home away from campus, may stay during the summer. Residence Life will be distributing information to those currently residing in the residence hall. So check back with them for that. And asking about evening tutoring.
Right, so yes, our tutoring is available online. We have content tutoring available in math, science, many of the science classes, psychology, sociology, writing in English. And you access this either through a link on the D2L page for tutoring, or you can go to the landing page for task, tutoring and academic support. But if you follow the link to online tutoring, you will find a way to make an appointment with a tutor, and you work with that tutor to figure out what time is mutually convenient. So if 8 o'clock in the evening is convenient for you and the tutor can be available, then yes, evening hours are available. They're just negotiated with the tutor that you need.
Okay, thank you. Next question, are there other fund sources to support university should enrollment decrease in the fall? Certainly looking at the CARES Act and how we are able to make use of the funds in that way. We're also, through our government relations offices, working with our state government for funding and continued support of higher education. And I will say, for MSU personally, I think we have done a great job of operating in a very lean and a very efficient way. So we have minded our budget, I think, and been very fiscally responsible as a university. So we'll continue to do that, and certainly administration and cabinet continues to work on those things and provide the resources for our faculty and our staff to do what they do best.
And let me just say, given the economy, it's a great time to be in school.
It's a great time to be in school. In fact, this summer, if I read this correctly, the graduate school has waived the GRE, GMAT. So for those that are graduating in May, you can keep going without taking another test.
Yeah.
And that's an all degree, right? So I know.
So
What's that?
MBA.
Yes, the MBA is online.
Yeah, several of our graduate degrees are on. Asking if we're going to watch the draft after
Yes.
this. I know we were holding Dr. Wells from the draft.
Yes, have the Cowboys gone yet?
So we're flattered that you're here with us while the NFL is drafting the next generation.
What round are we in?
One thing that's come out of this is that my dog is tired of walks. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but 2 walks a day, he pooped out today. He's like, no, I'm done. I'm done.
I give each, if any of you have final thoughts or final responses before we close up.
Yeah, we've been asked for parting thoughts, and I just have to say, I was so excited to be here in Legacy to see students. It was. I felt like I wanted to cry because I saw a student face to face. It was so amazing. And every time I see my students on a Zoom meeting or one of them calls me, it's that voice, that face interaction. It's better than an email to me. I really enjoy talking to you. So today I opened up a class, even though everything was online for the students to look at. I said, just log in, we'll be in a Zoom meeting, show me your dog or your sibling or your sourdough bread or whatever it was. And I really miss students, I really do. And so just to know your professors miss you, we miss you, and we really are really trying our best, but we really want to see you again.
Yeah.
I wrote in my little note, miss the students.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's painful really to walk around campus and not see you here. I know there have been a few remarks about faculty that aren't emailing back, and it seems like that is usually what gets the spotlight, are the ones that aren't going well. But I can tell you the faculty that were not already teaching online were those that had never intended to teach online. But they have come willingly, they have come in droves. They would walk in and say, you know, I didn't want to do this, but tell me what to do. They're really trying very hard. And then on the other side, I can say students, because I get to interact with you sometimes first, because I'm one of the D2L help people. You've been great. We get very, very, very few all caps emails, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate that.
Yeah, to follow up on that, it's really important that you continue to share with us your side of this experience, because faculty do care, they want you to learn, and we don't know what you're experiencing if you don't share it with us. So keep giving us feedback so that we can do, so we can teach.
I would echo that by saying we're all in the business of learning, and the faculty are in the business of learning too, so we're learning from the students.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I've always said that when I taught online, I had the pleasure of teaching radiologic physics for those of you that may be in that major. And students were always so excited to be in that class. And I missed online the ability to see the faces and to see when they get it. And those are just all those little things that we take for granted. But I think we're discovering that a lot about life in general now. And again, I will end as I began. We are truly inspired by your determination to continue. We're looking forward to completing this semester with you, to seeing you in the summer, and very hopefully seeing you face to face in the fall. So that's our plan, and that's what we're working towards. So again, continue to communicate with us, continue to reach out. We're still here. As I said before, online does not mean alone. There are people on the other side of that computer working really hard to see that you're successful. So thank you again for being with us, and hopefully you can get back to the NFL draft, and if you're doing your virtual versions of the NFL, that you can make great selections. So thank you again.